What I want to have a look at now in this demonstration is to use a database called errors. This is a database with a whole bunch of queries that I've created with errors purposely built into them. The purpose of this task is for you to go through the exercise and try to identify what the problem is. I guess my logic is if you can actually look at a query that's got errors or doesn't work, and you can work out what the problem is and what you have to do to be able to correct the problem, then you might be understanding the concept of using queries. So I'll go through and give you a demonstration, or give you a look at the first few queries in this exercise. I'm going to open the first query here, error 1, and if I double click on it to try to open it, it comes up with a message box saying that there's something wrong with some hieroglyphics here. Now, you may not understand what that particular thing means at this point in time, but it's actually giving you a clue, and me a clue, as to what the problem is. And if you also look at this, what the query says, I've named the query to try to reflect what the purpose of the query is, and this is supposed to calculate the gross pay of employees by job title. Now, when I try to look at the query, I can't just open it to see what the problem is. I need to go into the design screen and click on this button to go into that screen and see what the query looks like. I've got a few field names here. I've got the last name, first name, job title, which, if you look at the information from these table structures, you can see they come from the different tables here. But I've also got a calculated field over here which is saying gross pay, and I've actually constructed a formula: hours times hourly rate of pay. So this is a basic formula to work out the gross pay, but for some reason it doesn't seem to like this information. If I was to try to work out what the problem was, there's one immediate thing that strikes me as apparent, and that is it's talking about the hourly rate of pay, which I can see is listed up here, but there's a field name called hours which doesn't appear to be displayed in any of these tables. If you're familiar with the database, this particular database, or the Star 5 database, you'll remember, or you'd be aware that there's another table that's not actually shown here. If I click on this button here where it's got show table, there's another table that I need, and it's the hours table. When I click on that table, it pops up in this section here, and I choose close to close the show table box. My table now is hours table is showing, and also has the field name hours also displayed. If I use a calculated field, or if I use a formula as I'm doing here, I need to make sure that I can see the field names listed up in these table structures. If you don't see the field names, then it won't work. You need to make sure that you've got all the tables with the field names being used displayed. If I try to run the query now, it still comes up with an error message, and it's referring to something like bracketing of names. If I click on the OK button and refocus my attention down here, the immediate thing that you should notice is I haven't got the term hours enclosed in square brackets. Now, that's a necessary feature of formulas that or expressions that you construct. The field names must be enclosed in square brackets. Why do we have to have the square brackets? Well, it's one of the rules of access. Don't ask me, ask Bill Gates. He made the program. So in this instance, if I run the query again, it calculates the gross pay. It shows the gross pay for each individual. You'll notice that the names are listed twice here for some reason, and if I go back into the database and bring down maybe week ending, the simple explanation as to why there's a listing of the employees twice is simply because I'm looking at the pay weeks for two different pay weeks. I'm looking at the gross pay over the 1st to the 8th, and the 15th of January and the 8th of January 2004. So in terms of using this database with errors, they're the sorts of problems that you need to be able to work through. what I would suggest you try to do yourself is to go through these exercises, work out what the problem is, solve the problem, and then for your own benefit, save the database, or save the query I should say, under a new name, call it, say, error 1, solved. When you close the database and go in, you can see the two table or query names. So I've got my errors with the calculates gross pay, and I've also got the errors, the one that contains the solution to the problem. If you go through that with all the other errors in this database, you should be able to come up with a fine collection of problems that you might often encounter when setting up queries.